Hi, everybody. This is Gene from Design Theory. I'm joined once again with Yvonne from our Content and Marketing Department. Hi, Yvonne. How you doing?
Hey everybody, we're doing great. A little snowed in, but unharmed by it, pretty
Nice,
much.
nice, nice. Yeah, a little over 3 feet of snow up there in the Northeast, right?
Yeah, it's been quite the doozy up here, but we've all survived. Majority of us have not lost power.
Nice.
Just really trapped in our homes, but that's not such a bad thing. Sometimes downtime is good.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
to do this,
We get to
so
do
it's
another video.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
me and you, Yvonne, have kind of talked a lot about, managing client expectations, which is what we're going to be talking about today here on this video.
yes.
Over the past couple of weeks with some clients that we've had a little bit of wavy waters. Things always, obviously, of course, work out for us, but still, it was enough for us to go ahead and talk about this and kind of put this out there for people to understand kind of the behind the scenes of what we do here at Design Theory, and also show some transparency. So,
Sure.
what I wanted to kind of get into is in terms of managing client expectations, were understanding what and who the client is right from jump. Meeting a client for the first time, or a prospective client for the first time, is a very exciting thing, especially when they're already ready to go. Like, they're the type of
Mhm.
client who's ready to give you the money, ready to get started, understands, a little bit about, who you are and things like that, or has a good reference from you or from someone else to you. And so, the things that you really want to get into, at that meeting, right? Either as you sign them up, have them sign the contract, things like that, is kind of understand the type of personality that the client is. And the type of personalities could vary anywhere between conservative, funny, sarcastic,
Sure.
creative, visual. Those types of things, fall in line with the type of business or services that they offer. And so, understanding what that is, at least from the jump, will help you create the type of website or project or graphic or whatever it is you're going to be creating for them, because they're going to be able to resonate with that. Just taking what they tell you and then creating your own profile for them in your own mind really doesn't work this day and age. Maybe a couple of years ago that would have worked, where someone can tell you, hey, I need a new website, this is what I'm doing, and they give you all the creative leeway that you need, and they'll take
Sure.
whatever you give them. They kind of stay in their lane, and you as a designer or developer stay in your lane. Nowadays, those things are really merging, and so it really does help. And for us, we do a lot of that. We have a really good client profile that we set up for clients at the beginning, that we have them fill out, or that we work out with them, asking them a series of questions. Whether or not they have content ready, whether or not they have their logo, whether or not they know how many pages they're going to need, whether or not they're going to need, branding or marketing, after or throughout. Those types of things are helpful, but they also kind of jog their minds to tell them, hey, what kind of project are we going to be working on, and how long is this really going to take? All those things kind of went into play once that profile is really filled out. And that profile that we've done is really custom to what we do in our personality and our business.
Absolutely. And I think, one facet of this first element, which is understanding who your client is what's also the best mode of communication with that
Yep,
particular
good
client.
point.
Because you have some that are extremely busy
Hmm.
and they're like, no, 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 just send me an email.
Absolutely.
Others are so busy, they're like, no, don't send me an email because I don't get to email for 2 days, so send me a text.
Right.
Somebody else might communicate much better in person or over the telephone.
Hmm.
So, yes, I completely agree with you. That first element of managing your client expectations is definitely figuring out who they are, what their work personality is, and then kind of catering and tweaking our interactions with them based on that
Right.
information.
Right.
That trying to get inside of your client's head
Hmm.
and extract the purpose for their website,
Right.
what their business goals are, even if they're not clear on them. And that's where, my background and my marketing expertise comes into play in terms of the importance of branding and being clear about what is your business identity and what are the
Hmm.
goals of the business.
Hmm.
And getting that put right up front helps us to discern a little bit in terms of what kind of website we're going to design for them. What's the layout? What are the goals
Right.
that this company has for their brand, so that when we're going into choosing different design elements, or I'm writing the content for it, that those two facets really work synergistically one with another, and that we are furthering the overall goals visions, even dreams of that company.
I agree. I agree. So, I mean, do we also get into, how do you really get into, talk about how we really get into, understanding the vision of the company or the client, understanding who their ideal customers are. Because I think one of the bigger things that we deal with usually up front too is where people think that, okay, I need a website, I need to sell things, or I want to put things out there to showcase something, and they just want to show, but they don't know how to actually reach their clients. And so we have an idea, or we come up with ideas and say, okay, these are some avenues that you're probably going to want to use to showcase what the type of company that you are, what the vision of the company is, like we were talking about. And so talk a little bit about that, about what we do there.
Okay, well, when we have that first initial meeting with them, when we're trying to establish what the personality is of both our contact source there at that company as well as the company itself, sitting down with them and asking them a couple of different questions about how the company got started. It's kind of that going back to basics. How did the company get started? What are the overall goals of the company? What do you see the issues that you have as to why you need a website? Is it selling a product? Is it that, you're located in one little small geographical area of the world, but you feel like the whole world, via the World Wide Web, needs to know more about what you do? You're trying to expand your sales base, whether it's a service or a product in itself. So I think getting that information first and foremost is very important. Getting a firm understanding then of that product or service and making sure that they're clear about it as well. I know I wrote a blog. This is sometime during 2012. I don't know. I write too many. But I remember saying that just because you have a business does not mean necessarily that you know how to write well about your business.
Right.
And so it's kind of going back to those kind of basics, because as a business owner, you kind of have tunnel vision, right? Like, this is my company, this is what we do. And sometimes they're not really clear about a consumer perspective of their brand, their business, meaning i.e. service or product that they're offering. So it's in developing that rapport with them, having those conversations, that I might be able to give input to say, well, I know you really love this, but I don't think that that would really showcase your product or service to the level that you wanted to. So it's taking our expertise and kind of marrying that up with the goals and the visions of that business. And then what do you want the website to achieve? Or if they're looking at branding materials, what do you want your branding materials to achieve? What is it that you want to see as the business owner? And what do you think your consumers are expecting from you? And then that's kind of, for me, how I devise the marketing strategy and the plan, how we're going to execute those particular facets. For example, Marcelli's Precision Automotive, right? That's an automotive place in East Windsor, Connecticut that started off relatively small, but they moved to a bigger location. So they always had to reestablish their brand identity. And in the past, they only had a very small website. But once you and I got into it, it became this really gorgeous, amazing, robust, content-having website that was going to further, push them from being this little mom-and-pop shop to having a much more worldwide web presence, as well as presence in the automotive community for the Hartford region of Connecticut. And so in talking with them, I came to understand that this goes far beyond the website. Like, they needed a new brochure, they needed edgier business cards that would work along with the edgy new website that we had given them. We ended up instituting a punch card program that was just took off immediately. That they've already had gone through 250 cards in a very short period of time because their particular consumer base really enjoyed being a part of the brand loyalty for them. So that was very, very important. So it's really about figuring out that upfront first element, understanding who your client is, and then that second element, what's their brand identity and how that plays into the strategic marketing initiatives and strategies that we employ as we're going along in the process.
One of the things that I also wanted to touch back with too is when you understand your client from the get-go, when those things come up, when you start to develop the website, and one of the things that we do also is we kind of look at the things that we can bring in, maybe plugins, maybe different functionality that they may not have thought about that could be beneficial to them, that we then try to bring out to them. Or maybe they come up and say, well, we want to do this, that, and the third, and we tell them, yeah, we can do A, B, and C. We can do A and B, but we can't do C. And this is the reason why we shouldn't do C, because it's not going to reflect your website well, or it's going to break the workflow of your website, or it may not be a proper call to action, or maybe you're missing a call to action. So by understanding the client from the beginning, some of the things we do is actually give them that advice in a way that they can accept it, not a way that makes it seem like they don't know what they're talking about, or that we're superior, or that we're know-it-alls and they don't know anything. No, that's not our process at all. If anything, we try to if we can educate them, we definitely do, but we break them into something to where it's very easy for them to take it and understand it on the level that they understand technology-wise, not that techno-babble stuff. So then when we say, hey, listen, I think it'd be a great idea for not only for you to have this website, talking about Marceli, where you have all this robust look, it has the keywords, it has the meta tags behind the scenes, but now we've also incorporated a form that people can go ahead and request an appointment to have their cars serviced, which which is very convenient. They can do it from their phones, they can do it from their tablets, they can do it from their computers, they can do it at work, from home, 24/7. So now their website has an extra layer of functionality that's almost like an employee, but that's that they've paid for, and that's able to do these things where they can just come in and run, check their emails and run a report and say, okay, well, we've got these things that came in, secure these, confirm these appointments, and now this is an extra functionality that they don't have to waste time for, during the day. This is already built in. So it kind of, again, it saves their bottom line. And so things like that we're able to bring back to a client once we understand their needs, which is why we have to get involved in their business, really understand what they're doing.
Right. And even understanding who their competition is as well. And that's a very important aspect of the marketing strategy, as well as it really does, what's the best way to say this? It really does give us certain margins and parameters that we'll have in terms of who their competition is and how do we one up that competition, right? Because majority of people say, we'll go to a competition website, competitor's website, and we'll say, okay, well, what do you like about their website? And what don't you like about their website? What is one element that they might have where you're like, okay, we definitely need that, but we don't want it to look just like that, so that we can make sure that we're going in the right direction. So that's another facet, is understanding not just who the consumer will be, who your business client is, but also who their competitors are, so that they can stay exactly in that position as competition. And, we certainly want our clients to surpass their competition. So that puts the onus back on us to come up with better design and layout, better content, better functionality, all of those things. And we definitely saw that with Marceli's. We understood from the very beginning, here are 2 or 3 websites of who your main competitors are, and this is what you like about that. And, well, we don't want that element. This is why it wouldn't work for you, but we have to almost marry our knowledge base with theirs, so that that relationship is consistently enhanced by their knowledge and our knowledge. So it's really walking hand in hand with your client down the aisle to completion of that particular project, so that it's successful for both parties, for us as a web design firm, and for them for whatever business area that they're in, whatever their industry expertise is.
I wanted to talk a little bit about budget. One of the bigger things that we get, right up front is, okay, well, how much is this going to cost me? And usually I wind up hearing that stuff a little while after we've given them a whole bunch of options and a whole bunch of, kind of inspired in our minds based on what they're telling us about their business or their services. Now it's like, oh, wow, all this stuff is going on. So how do we convey that to them? How do we tell them, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is how much it's going to cost you, at least as a rough estimate or a close estimate. And we have a series of packages that we offer our clients, and usually we try to fit them within those packages. It doesn't mean that just because we fit you in those packages, we can't go more or less. But chances are we're going to fit you based on the needs that you've told us. And so one of the things that contribute to that budget, though, is how fast you're able to get back to us with the information that we need. Sometimes we're able to get some things from the client all up front, and those are rare.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do, it really helps us to streamline our process because we don't have to go back to the client and ask for more information. And when you have to go back and ask for more information, other things start to pile up because now they're going back and they're thinking more and they're saying, well, I want to add more functionality that I didn't think that I needed before, or I didn't visualize before. And so we didn't plan for that. We didn't budget for it. We didn't start developing it. And now we've got to go and develop these new things. And as we're developing these new things, there goes the price factor. We're starting to have to add more hours on the time that we're developing their website. So that definitely, has a factor to play in. Another factor to play in is whether or not they have all the graphics in place. Some people, are starting businesses and they don't have any, or maybe they have a simple graphic that somebody created, maybe in Microsoft Word as a clip art, and they don't have it as a layered PNG file or a Photoshop file that we can then take and scale to fit their website or fit different areas on the website for whatever that we're trying to do. So that's going to cost a little bit more for us too, either if we have to recreate that or we have to create something that actually is going to be beneficial to the website or complementary, I should say, to the website, and not something that the logo stands out as something that's very archaic or antiquated, and then the website looks more modern and flowing and inviting and all of those things. So that also could play a factor too. And I know you, in terms of content, that's a whole other story also. So talk about that.
It definitely is. So I think once you go from that first element of understanding who your client is, you go to the second element of brand identity and strategic marketing. Then you go into this third segment, which is setting client expectations for the project. So like you said, what are the projected costs and overall budget? Going over that information with your client and allowing some wiggle room for that because of the expanded ideas that they may have as the project continues on. So you want to make sure that you create an expectation of a little bit of a buffer.
Okay.
So if we come in under budget, fantastic. If we have to go over a little bit, they understood that from the very beginning because they want these add-ons, if you will, that cost us time and money, certainly. So we have to pass that cost on to the client.
Right.
So it's making sure that you have that understanding. And then what are the time frame and benchmarks for completion, knowing once again, then if you add on to different functionality you want, or you say, I want different content, or it's a particular area of content that I'll actually have to research because they don't have that content readily available, that can certainly push the completion date out a little bit. So, but if you have that great rapport with them and you have that relationship, there won't be a lot of strife during those phone calls.
Yes, that's key.
They'll understand it, and it's also the way that you communicate that information, certainly with the client.
Absolutely.
So yes, all of those facets definitely affect the workflow and projected timeframes for it.
Let me jump in there too about what you were saying in terms of the relationship. One of the things that I can tell you, when I was just by myself before I brought you guys in, to being part of the team, is that as you get inundated, as a designer or developer gets inundated with work, the least amount, they're not going to do as much communication with the client. And so by giving the client an updated, if not weekly or daily or whatever the case may be, status on how their project is going, that actually sets the pace too. Because if you wind up having to be a day behind or 2 days or a week behind, because you've had that communication on a regular basis with them and you've got that rapport, it's okay. But when you don't talk to them from the time that you signed the contract, you started working, and then 3 months later, there really isn't anything to show. When you have to go to them and say, "Well, it's going to be another 6 months," what? I don't understand what's been going on for the last 3 months. Because there hasn't been that communication. I just wanted to jump in there with that because that's also a thing.
Perfect. Yeah. I think that that's absolutely essential, and that goes to the success of the relationship. You know what I mean? And them knowing that, this person has been consistently updating me on the progress of my project. And so when you do come to them and, God, I hope we're never 6 months behind. We've never had that situation, so I'm grateful for that. But even if it's 6 days or, a week and a half, whatever it is, if you're staying in that constant communication with them, it's not a rip the Band-Aid off type experience. It's, it's been finessed and, they understand it. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, we were hoping for this, but because of these certain elements or because this occurred,
Right.
we're not going to be able to meet that deadline. And most of the time, like we've never had a situation where our clients come back and been like, oh my gosh, you
Right.
guys said this date and now I'm unhappy and I'm going to take my business elsewhere. Or, we've never had that because we've done such a good job. Toot toot, sorry, our own horn. We've done such a good job, right? We've done such a good job of managing those relationships, even through some troubled waters, that they've all still had successful outcomes,
Right.
and that's the most important thing.
Right.
And then we sometimes have, the other issue is a lack of responsiveness on the client side, right? So I've been there where I've emailed the client several times and I'm not getting a response, and that's what pushes back. And so even your communication with them about that and saying, listen, I've emailed you 5 times
Right.
in the last week and I haven't gotten a response. I just need you to understand that this is going to stop me
Right.
from moving forward in what I need to do on my end, and that's going to push the deadline out.
Right.
And sometimes that's just the little pulling of the coattail, if you will, that they need to be like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to have consistent communication with my web design team so that I can get this done. So that's really important. So that third element, yes, absolutely. Setting client expectations for their project, so crucial.
Yeah.
And then the fourth element is client's expectation for ROI, which is absolutely perfect segue for you, Gene, to speak to that, because we have had some really interesting experiences with that.
Yeah,
so I'm going to pass the mic to you.
And I'll definitely take it. One of the things that really kind of get to me, and not to say personally, but it kind of hits home because I want people to really understand this. There's a lot of developers that are out there that are creating websites that have been, for maybe a day, maybe a night, maybe a few years. You have to understand that you get what you pay for. If you're going to, if you have a budget for, for a $20 website, there are services that are out there for you. However, if you have a budget for, a couple hundred, but you fight to try to get someone who's trying to sell you a website for a couple thousand, for a couple hundred, there's going to be some missteps there. There's going to be some love lost there, if you will. So understand that what you put into, and it is an investment, but what you invest into your website, from a good company, a good design company, you're going to get a good ROI on that because they're going to show you that. They're going to explain to you, at the beginning or even through the process or even as the website's going on, hey, this is what we're doing for you, so that way your website can either be, more responsive. That's going to be because the service that you offer, when people pull up your website, probably primarily more on mobile, your website's going to be optimized for mobile, and it's going to show these key points very fast and allow people to map to you or find your menu or pull up some quick services or even buy some things very quickly and securely because of that, because of what we've done. We had a client who came to us that wanted to have a website where they can sell some products, and initially they were thinking that they could just do it through PayPal, and we actually were able to set them up with a full back-end e-commerce system where they can track their orders, they can do coupons, they can do sales that expire at a certain time and automatically work, and all these things that we were able to give to them more than what they were expecting. So their functionality for their website went from like being this small and in their mind being okay with, but then we were able to take that to much more. Obviously, that gave them a much, it would cost a little bit more, but the return on their investment was so much better because the product of their, the end result was so much better than just, oh, okay, it's just PayPal, all right. But now, they can take that, they get all this client information, they can go back and resell, and they can go back and market, and they can see how their sales are going from month to month, week to week, day to day. That's a good return on your investment. It costs a little bit more, but was it worth it? Absolutely. There also are unrealistic expectations. Where, and I'm not going to name names, but there are some clients out there that think that, well, once they have a brand new website, that the floodgates should just be opening up with new business. And it's no different than having $1 million house, in a neighborhood where no one's ever been to, no one's ever heard of it. So what's the point? If you advertise that your business is out there in this neighborhood and you have these great products, state-of-the-art, equipment and blah, 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 then people will come. But if they don't know that it's there, you may get one or two that happen to walk by and say, oh, who knew this was here? And they'll enjoy it, you know. And then I'll even give you a testament to that. If they do and they enjoy it, chances are they'll probably use social media to get their friends to know about it.
Yeah.
But again, if you're not using social media and you're not marketing, which is an arm of marketing, it's not marketing solely, but it's a part of marketing. If you're not doing that, no one's going to know. So yes, the website could have cost you a couple grand. But guess what? If no one knew that it was there and you're not marketing, you're not using AdWords, you're not doing blog posts, you're not updating your content, you're not using social media, you're not doing press releases, you're not doing, you know, even some local advertising, you need to do something so that way people understand that it's there, and then it'll start to work, and then there'll be some more ROI there. We do our jobs in terms of that, you know, in terms of building you a great looking website, and we'll do some marketing for you should you allow us to, and we have clients that do, and that's great. But the ones that don't, or don't see the value in it, or don't want to spend the money, because they see the value in it, but they may not want to spend the money, and that's the dangerous part, because they wind up having a really good website, but they hold back on the money they need to use it. They need to use towards marketing to really let their website explode and do what it's meant to do.
Absolutely, and they have this assumption that you know what's the
if you build it, they
Kevin
will come.
Costner movie.
Yeah. Field of Dreams.
Yeah, build it and they will come.
Right,
kind of thing. Or, you know, now I've got my website. My phone should be ringing off the hook. I shouldn't be able to take orders fast enough. And, you know, they have this assumption, and it's just not realistic. They have to take responsibility for their business. As you said, they have to take responsibility for the marketing of their business, the website, and so forth and so on. And so they need to understand that it's just not that simple to do it. You know, to have it done, it's like set it and forget it. That mentality doesn't apply when it comes to your website. So I think we've hit on some really, really strong points. So first, we definitely have understanding who your client is, number one. Number two, figuring out what your brand strategy and strategic marketing goals and initiatives are going to be.
Key.
Third, setting client expectations for the project, right? Making sure that those lines of communication are there. And then the fourth element, what do you do with client expectations of the ROI? And so it's important to set the expectations from both parties and from the beginning, set your workflow, do your best to stick to it, hold your clients accountable for their website success, and then lastly, understand finally that it's about the client relationship and the longevity of that relationship. So I think with these four elements in place, we'll all be good to go, and we'll see less of a one-off client relationship, and we'll start to get some longevity out of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's the goal for every business, right? Is you want that repeat business. As much as they do, so do we.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Yvonne, for taking the time with me today. I really did. This video was well worth it. And I hope that the viewers out there that are watching this, you know, leave us some comments in the fields below. Let us know what you think. If you have some other points you want to add on to it, obviously they're more than welcome. This was actually more condensed than what we wanted to do. There's a lot more that we want to put out there, and I know Yvonne's going to add some more to it in her post when you see it tomorrow. But thanks for listening. Until next time.
Goodbye.